Following the signing of the Comprehensive Action Plan to end the use of child soldiers in South Sudan, the country has embarked on a mass rehabilitation program for former child soldiers. The program, led by the UN agencies UNMISS Child Protection, UNICEF and national partners, the objective is to educate and train participants from the military justice sector on the rights of children and the need to protect them when armed conflict arises.
This is the first time that all parties to ongoing conflict in the world's youngest nation have come together in agreement that children need special protection during times when violence breaks out.
The workshop on training military justice personnel is part of ongoing activities by the country task force, that is UNMISS and UNICEF, to build the capacity of support the government of South Sudan towards full implementation of the Comprehensive Action Plan on ending all 6 grave violations, which was signed last year, February 2020.
Now, there are about 3 previous action plans that were signed, but for various reasons, they were not implemented. Now, the latest one was in last year, in February, 2020. And in that action plan is unique in its own way, that it comprises of all the parties, the conflict, that's SSPDF, SPLIO, and so on. It's the first in the history of child protection. You have all the parties of the conflict coming to agree on an action plan. Now, they have committed themselves.
Facilitators ran detailed sessions on a myriad of issues related to child protection, on the psychosocial and economic after effects when minors are engaged as combatants, witness or are caught up in attacks on schools, are killed, raped or disabled due to violence, and are denied necessary humanitarian aid. These constitute 6 grave violations against children.
We hope they get our message that they should not be using children, they should not be killing children, they should not be miming them, they should not be raping children, they should not be occupying schools and hospitals, and they should not be denying humanitarians from accessing the civilians. That's the message we send to all of them.
Attending military lawyers were also thoroughly briefed on existing legal frameworks to protect children.
We are training them now so that they go back to the unit and advise the division commanders on the right way to take so that we avoid such things occurring. From top down, we are giving them knowledge so they know their role. We are giving them their role. And according to their role, this is why we are checking from time to time. We are checking them according to the role that we have given to them, what they are supposed to do.
According to UNICEF, more than 3,000 children have been released from armed groups in South Sudan since conflict began, but thousands more continue to be used.
Well, for more on this, we're now joined by the head of Child Protection at the United Nations mission in South Sudan, Mr. Alfred Orono. Thank you so much indeed for joining us, and welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
All right. So tell us what did you see that required this kind of intervention?
What did I see? Well, as you know, South Sudan has been in conflict for a long time, and children have been used in the conflict. And the United Nations is very concerned about this kind of activities as the impact on the children. That's the future of the world and the future of South Sudan in particular. And there is a need to ensure that perpetrators who commit these offenses, these crimes, are aware of the implication of the actions and the repercussions that follow the actions. So we found it necessary, as part of the comprehensive action plan, to have the officers responsible for the enforcement of the SPLA SSPDF Act to have the knowledge specifically on issues relating to the protection of children.
What sort of ages are we talking about here?
The ages of the participants or the ages of the children?
The children involved.
Children involved, I mean, anybody below the age of 18 is a child. And in South Sudan, it depends on the kind of engagement they are in. Usually, the ones who participate in combat range from 15 to 18, and the rest are involved in other activities related to the supporting of the conflict. Yeah.
So the ones being rehabilitated, are these now former children who are now adults, or are there still some quite young that are being helped?
We have some who are quite young, and as you know, we cannot just discard those who have attained the age of 18. We have an obligation, the international community has an obligation to ensure that they get the support that is required. And that's really the role of our partners, UNICEF and the NGOs that work with them. Us in UNMISS, our responsibility is engagement with the parties to get their acceptance and to release the children, and we hand them over to UNICEF and the National DDR Commission.
And has there been cooperation by all parties?
What did you say?
I said, have you found that all parties have been cooperating?
Yes, I mean, that's a very, I think, a very important aspect of the situation we're in South Sudan. But there is a political will. There is a commitment by all the parties who signed the action plan. We have not been able to reach out to NAS. That's the party that is still fighting in parts of Central and Central Equatoria. But SSPDF, SPLIO, and SOA have committed, and they continue to express that commitment by actively participating in our workshop and in our joint verification visits across the cantonment sites and across the barracks, across the areas of control, and by providing us with access to those areas and releasing the children in their midst, and evacuating the schools that they're occupying, and really engaging with us in a way that we are quite comfortable with and happy that we are starting to see the dividends as a result of that cooperation.
How many children do you think, or former child soldiers, do you think that you probably will need to reach with this kind of program?
Well, so far, as you said earlier on, we have released over 3,000 children since the start of the program. We released about 1,279 since 2017. And there are more children out there. The problem, though, is the continued conflict in some areas. South Sudan is a very big country, vast country, with almost no infrastructure. It's the size of maybe Kenya, Uganda, and Rwanda, but without infrastructure in those countries. So it is not easy to access the children. So we won't be able to understand the numbers, but we know that there were many children involved in the fighting. But I think we'll get to them. But we also need the support of the international community to provide UNICEF with the resources to be able to conduct reintegration. Because the question that we get asked by the commanders is, if we give you these children, what are you going to do with them? You can provide them with the backpacks, with the books and pencils, but they are without a corresponding number of schools for them to go into. And when you release them and they get bored, they turn back and go back to the places where they felt more safer. That's where the armed groups.
Early results, what are they telling you in terms of outcomes of these rehabilitation programs?
Well, it is a hit and miss. In some places, they are successful where we have resources. For example, in Yambio, UNICEF has been able to set up vocational training, providing sewing machines to some of the ladies who were released and providing Masonry education to the young men and the young women. And in other places like Ibor, not very successful because of the nature of the conflict in that area and the nature of their traditional life, depending on cattle, and the continuing intercommunal violence in that area. So it's difficult to sustain these programs when conflict continues in any form, whether it's intercommunal violence or the main national conflict, political conflict.
I suppose this is the kind of thing where you are constantly refining your programs as you see the feedback on the work that's being done.
Exactly. We learn from our mistakes. We improve them. We improve our actions according to the context, and we adopt very quickly. For example, in Pibor, we used to give out goats to the children that were released, but we found that those were causing more chaos because families were fighting over goats, and that was encouraging other people to come and steal them. So we decided on a more communal-based approach that is trying to develop schools, improving the learning activities, and providing programs that people learn how to take care of cows, because that's their source of livelihood. So we have programs like Veterinarians Without Frontiers, who are working to train the people on how to take care of their animals, treating them. And, you know, when you treat animals and they're healthy, then you don't have people clamoring to go and raid more cattle to replenish their herds. So I think those are the kind of programs we are looking to, and we learn them based on the past experience.
Thank you so much indeed for joining us and giving us some of this good news about the important work that these programs are doing. Thank you so much indeed for joining us, Mr. Alfred Orono.